Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to look back at my top 10 favorite photos of the year. So these are my top 10 favorite photos that I've done, and some of them are not on my website under my profile. They might not be the best photo I've ever taken or even rank up there, but with every one of them, there was a certain emotion attached to this photo that it brings a happy memory to me, or whatever, for whatever reason, it just somehow resonates with me. So without further ado, with further ado, I've been getting some questions about my background. Now, I promise you guys, I'm not some crazy redneck that likes to collect axes, though I kind of am. Behind me is a collection of old marbles axes. Now, I was born and raised in Michigan before I moved out here to Washington, and growing up on the farm, I was always big in the outdoors, hunting, fishing, woodcraft, bushcraft. The things that I have behind me, these were all Michigan-made axes and knives. I have a few of them. They were made by a gentleman named Webster Marbles. He started this company way back in the late 1890s. And these axes represented some great innovations back then. My oldest one dates back all the way to about 1918. This was a little camp axe that people would hike in, and Webster Marbles specifically made like this type of axe because it was very, very lightweight and easy to pack. And this is probably my oldest one, and this one was, for me, is the hardest one to find. It's called the Camp Axe number 15. While some of these other ones here, little axes like these, he were famous because he designed these little safety latches on, loop them through your belt, and you could carry them without fear of getting cut. And most of these axes I actually still use today. This one probably dates from late 20s to early 40s. It was kind of hard to pin down some of these years. But yeah, almost every one of these axes, when I go out, I still use them today. So anyway, back to the photos. So this first photo here, it's called Sidelight. Now this is a photo that I used as a background as the intro screen from my website. And what was kind of fun about this one was I took this during my very first YouTube video that I ever done. It was, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was shot entirely in the vertical because I was just only going to do it as an Instagram story, but I had enough video left over. I'm like, what the heck, I'll put on a video. But I actually never recorded myself taking this photo, because after I got everything packed down, I was walking back to my truck and I happened to look over by the river, and the sun was just setting between the canyons on the far left side, and the light was just really beautifully hitting the top of that canyon. So I rushed back over to the other side running, hurry up. I got everything set up, and I tried to make a composition. I was just trying to get a photo before that light changed, and I remember that I only got like 1 or 2 shots off before that light went away. Thankfully, I was able to get this shot. The second photo here I called Lake Sunset, and this is one that is not on my website yet, but it is one that I will be offering as a print. I took this one in early February, and I was in Idaho when I took it. I was just south of the Coeur d'Alene Lake. They have another lake that Coeur d'Alene kind of feeds into, and it's one of my more favorite long exposures that I've done, and I really like the soft pastel colors of this. You have that beautiful long exposure of the water before you. You got the mid-ground that's almost completely blacked out, offering just shadows, which I really like, because it almost gives, like, it holds a little bit a little bit of mystery. It's like, what's behind there? I don't know. But the clouds were moving very fast, so I was able in one shot to get really nice detail in that sky. For me, that's why this is one of my favorite photos. Now this next one is called Winter's Last Breath, and this one was a very interesting one. This was taken about March 7th, March 8th, that thing. This was when I thought was going to be like our last hurrah for winter. Now down in town where I live at in eastern Washington, I'm right on the border of Idaho, which is why I go to Idaho so often. But we generally don't get snow in the lower lanes. You got to get up into the buttes and up to the mountains. And I knew this was going to probably be the last chance I would get to photograph snow. So I just threw everything into my truck and I just go around to places that I've known about, some of these back roads, and I had absolutely no plan whatsoever. I knew I wanted to get a mountain shot. I knew I wanted to get some snow. That was it. Well, I spent a couple hours and I never found a composition that I really liked. So kind of out of act of desperation, I'm like, I'm going to go down this one road that I've never been down before. I've been by it, I've been around it, but I've actually never been to this road because it's just a short road that connects two other back roads. And as I'm driving down it, I see this old abandoned house like smack dab in the middle of the field. And I realized that it was perfectly framed by the butte behind it, and that butte actually had the snow on it. So I stopped my truck real quickly. Clouds were actually about ready to kind of dissipate behind this scene. If you're looking at it now on screen, to the left of it, which would have been to my right, I'm sorry, it would have been to my left too, the sky was actually clearing. So I wanted to get this shot before everything went away. So I hurried up, got outside. I didn't even grab my tripod. Thankfully I just happened to have the 70-200 on, and I was able to hand hold this shot at f10 at 92 millimeter without cranking the ISO. I was still able to achieve about 1/160th of a shot. So with the internal stabilization of the lens, this is the shot that I got. And this is why this photo is one of my favorite, because there was almost no planning. I was just out seeing if I can get anything, and I was able to walk away with a great shot. This next photo is called Spring Has Sprung. And this photo was the result of staking out a location very, very early on in the year. I've actually shot this composition before, and I posted it to Instagram during a winter storm, one of the rare ones that we get where the snow actually goes down to the Snake River. Now, because the Snake River is so low in elevation that it's always warmer than on top of the canyons in the hills, so to get snow down there is very, very rare. And I got this shot and I didn't like it. Just plain didn't like it. I posted it to Instagram. I hummed and hawed about it for a few days, and it actually bothered me enough that I took it down because it's just that nothing worked. It was flat lighting. You had a lot of wind, snow. I did not like it. But I knew this location had a ton of potential as a sunset because the sun, the way I was shooting towards the little bay there, across the river, then up through the valleys, the sun was going to set directly behind all of this. So I knew if I got down at the right time, I could get just enough light peeking over the hills that would fall down onto the river and illuminating the entire foreground while still adding a lot of sky interest. So I waited for actually a few months just to get this photo, and this was a long exposure again. And this is probably one of my favorite long exposures I've ever done. It was almost a 2-minute long exposure. And my favorite thing that I loved about this photo was in almost the lower right hand corner, you see this one patch of flowers that was starting to come up because this is springtime. I believe I shot this in April. I'm checking my notes. I shot this on April, so spring was just really starting to kick off. So this was an exercise of patience, of scouting locations, and knowing exactly how to set up the composition when the right light occurred. So this next one, however, I said earlier that some of these were not my favorite shots, but there was a very nice memory behind them. This one is my favorite shot that I've possibly ever taken. And exact opposite of my last photo, this one was just pure happenstance that I was able to get this one. I call this one Storm in the Distance. And if some of you guys listen to the Irish Photography podcast, which I'll put a link to those guys down below, this one got featured on their podcast, and that totally blew me away that these guys from Ireland saw this photo, enjoyed it so much to feature it on their podcast. But I do have to make a correction. On the podcast, they thought that was a castle in the mid-distance. Nah, that's just an oak tree. But I was going camping, and I was waiting for the rare summer rain to go away. I was just camping down the road. Wanted to try out some new gear, and I thought, well, you know, what the heck, I'd just bring my camera. And as I was going to the butte that I was going to camp at, I noticed that the storm was still far off in the distance, but it was still blocking the mountains behind. So I thought, man, this would be a really cool photo. So I walked down the trail, about a mile long, not very far, very, very easy trail. And as I get set up, I noted this one tree in the middle. I'm like, oh man, this could be a sweet shot. So once again, I rush everything, put everything on. This time I did have a tripod, and I just sat there clicking photo after photo, waiting for a batch of rain to come down to perfectly frame that tree. And I only had about 5 minutes to do all this, and I was very lucky to get this shot, because it's just one of those things that you got to be there, right time, right place, right condition, right light. And fortunately, I was able to get all of these. Now this next one is interesting. When I first took this photo, I've actually taken this photo several times at a local county park, but I always shoot with the fence to the left. I didn't expect to come away with anything, even though I knew this composition would work from previous visits. It was a photo I did not expect to turn out well. But in the far, far north, they were getting a storm, and this storm was miles away, and we were just on the edge of it. Matter of fact, where I was, it never even rained. The wind was blowing extremely fast. You know, light's very harsh, going in and out as it's ducking behind the clouds. And I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna try to get this photo. We'll see how it turns out. And it actually turned out really well. Enough so that it did very well on Flickr and on Instagram, because it's a very simple composition, but it's very pleasing. You got this nice leading line from your right to the mid-ground. You have a dark sky, which helps add depth. The valleys behind it, you know, are laid in shadow, so it's very easy for the eye to follow through, and the color is just very consistent in the foreground, but clash in a pleasant way to the sky. So yeah, just a photo that I enjoyed. Now this one, Comet Neowise. Everybody got a photo of Neowise. Hopefully everybody did. It was a great opportunity. Now, strictly speaking, this is not one of my best shots. Matter of fact, I would rate this only as an average shot, and seeing some other guys, you know, other people, what they were able to get with the Comet is just absolutely astounding. Mine doesn't even broach the top, I don't know, 10,000 to what some other people got. But what I like about this photo was like my first true foray into Photoshop. This was a composite photo, but that's not where the comet actually lined up in the sky. If you're looking at the comet on the screen, you'd actually have to bank about 15 degrees to your right, and that's where the comet was. But I so wanted this comet to be over this dam overlooking the river. So what did I do? I put it there, and I'm not ashamed to say it. But after I took all those shots with the 500 millimeter, I then swung over to do some bracketed shots of the landscape. But because the wheat was so close to me, I actually had to do a focus stack of the foreground, midground, and the background to make sure everything's sharp. And I started just quite not when the sun was down. Now, for you sharp-eyed astronomers out there, you would know instantly looking at this that you would not be able to see the comet with that much light out. And you know, that's okay. This is how I wanted to express this photo. But I think I took over 200 photos when it was all said and done. Combined the foreground, midground, the bracketed shots for the skies, I blended in the stars, and then I physically moved the comet there. So yes, this is a composite photo, but it taught me a lot about working with Photoshop. Not the best photo ever, but I really do like it. Now this next one is, I took this in the Sullivan Mountains up near the Canada border. I've been to this place a few times. I actually have done a YouTube video about the watchtower. But I shot this in fall, right after elk hunting season. Me and my brother and a couple of his buddies were out in Idaho hunting for elk, and the last day they wanted to get done, my brother's friends, they wanted to go home. They were from Wisconsin. So they left in the morning. And my brother and I like, you know what, we're not done hunting. We had our small game license, so told James, hey, I know a great place up north. Let's go up there. So we actually go up there, intending to hunt grouse. But like always, almost every time I go out, I have my camera gear with me. I was actually intending of shooting photos of him. By the time we get up there though, we found out there were still a lot of hunters in the area, and a lot of them were, you know, still out and about. So the chances of seeing grouse weren't that great. So we decided to, you know, we'll just head back home, only a couple hours away. Driving back down the mountain though, just before sunlight or sunset, we're getting down by the lake and almost about to the main road. And I see just over the treetops, because I was able to drive, we're still on a little bit on the mountain. I'm like, oh man, you know, the lake's going to be great. But I can't get a photo right here. So I stopped the truck and I'm looking around desperately. There's no way I could stand on top of my truck and get this type of photo because I really wanted that lake in it. But it wasn't going to work out. So I'm looking. And to my right, there's this old kind of stone quarry that people have dug out. They use it as a little makeshift gun range now. But it was probably 150 yards wide by about 100 yards tall. And it's almost straight up. I'm like, that was the only place I could shoot. So guess I'm going up this quarry. I put on all my gear. I have every lens that I own, including that big old 500 millimeter, because I just don't know what it's going to look like up there. But if things did turn out if it did turn out to be a good photo, I wanted to make sure I had the equipment with me. So I sprint up this hill that easily was over 50 degrees slope, easily, with all my gear on, about 40 pounds worth of gear, loose rock, loose sand. By time I scrambled up this mountain, I'm about ready to vomit. I am so tired. My legs are burning. I kept sliding back down. It was very, very hard. But I finally got up there, and the last of the light was still hanging around. And I knew instantly that this was going to be panoramic, and I could cut down and crop in on that photo. So luckily, I took the panoramic. By this time, though, the best light it already went away, but there was still enough light to make a good composition in my mind. So yeah, this is a photo that I got, scurrying up the hill, totally unprepared, just right place in the right time. But I did like this photo enough as I did order I think it was a 20 by 40, I want to say it was a 20 by 40 photo from Bay Photo, and it came out beautiful. Now this next one, the Palouse Falls. Everybody has a photo of the Palouse Falls, and I am no exception. I have taken this photo several times, but I was never quite satisfied. The Palouse Falls for me was always, I feel like going out shooting, but I don't know what. I'll just go down to the Palouse Falls and see what I can get. Because you can't take a bad picture of the Palouse Falls. There's one spot in particular where this photo was taken that everybody takes their photos. And if you take this photo, doesn't matter if you got good light, bad light, no light, raining, snow, whatever, you're going to get a good photo. So this photo was a product of proper planning, of proper execution. I knew when I went down that I was going to do a video on this, and I uploaded it a few months ago on YouTube. And this shot was always the end goal. I recall even saying so as I took the video. I wanted a wide shot of the Palouse Falls, but I did not want to use my wide angle lens. I wanted it to be a panoramic. I want to make a big print of this one day, and so I want all those megapixels from the D850 so I can print this thing as large as I want. And I wanted to really establish the relationship of the waterfall, the canyon, and the river. And I was very fortunate that it worked out the way it is. Now, people get these awesome, epic sunset shots where the sky just blows up with color. That was not the shot that I want, because those days are very rare. I wanted to show the beauty of the Palouse Falls on almost any day that you go down there, because you have such a unique environment. On the right side, you have all this, the sun as it goes down, you have all the warmth of that light hitting the canyon. And as soon as you get to the middle of the photo, you have this peak kind of coming right out at you. And then that light falls away and everything kind of gets colder as you go onto the left side. You actually see it in this photo, how you have that break of cloud. You got this huge ball of light on the right side, and you have all that yellow light, and it just starts to dissipate as soon as it hits that middle of the scene. And you have the blue sky above that sets that cold tone for the rest of the photo. And then you have the moonrise, you have the waterfalls. It just, everything about this photo turned out right in my mind. And this is why this is my second favorite photo of the year, and I can't wait to offer it as a print. This last photo it's a good photo, don't get me wrong. I like it. I'm currently testing papers out right now to see what paper type would be the best for this. I'm looking at the soft gloss rags. I like this photo. It is a good photo. This photo is on my 10 favorites of the year because the memory that I have with my brother, we were out hiking, we were out camping, eating out in the woods, homemade meals, waking up in the morning very early, having that really bad instant coffee, seeing that sunrise over the frosty valley with surrounded by mountains was such an amazing experience, and it's very hard to personify, but it was one of my favorite moments of last year. With a year, gone to hell, the coronavirus, the lockdowns, everything. This photo was one of the last ones that I took of the year, and to be able to have my brother with me after camping it was absolutely great. So there you go. Those are my 10 favorite photos. Yeah, I can't wait for 2021 and see what goes on for photography this year. I do have a bit of an announcement. I am working on selling prints. I'm building the website page right now, and I'm just waiting for one last paper that I'm trying. I'm going to try the Canson papers and see how I like them. And then this will be kind of like a pre-sale thing before I officially go live. I'm offering, I believe there's 8 photos throughout my short career as a photographer. They'll all either be 11 by 17 or 11 by 14. But I'll make that announcement when that goes live. And I hope you guys support me. You know, if you see a print, we can work something out. But, you know, until next time, we'll see you out there.